Hey everyone, it's Jenna from Cruise Blog, and today I'm going to be talking about 12 things I loved and hated about my first MSC cruise. Let's get into it. When I boarded my first MSC cruise recently, I had no idea what to expect. Most reviews I had read about the cruise line were subpar at best, and although I usually don't put too much faith into reviews, I couldn't help but be a little apprehensive. MSC Cruises, an Italian-based cruise line, is controversial amongst many cruise fans. Long established in the European market, the cruise line has recently begun gaining popularity among North American cruisers, promising low prices, trendy ships, and world-class destinations. Despite its growth, MSC has been subject to negativity, with many cruisers complaining about the food, service, and programming on board its ships. While weighing the positives and negatives of the cruise line, curiosity got the best of me, and I booked a 7-night cruise on the fleet's biggest ship, MSC World Europa. As the 6th largest cruise ship in the world, I had high expectations for my week on board, hoping the ship's vast amenities, activities, and dining options would make for a wonderful cruise experience. And for the most part, it did. From the abundance of Italian food to stylish design and high-quality entertainment, my experience on MSC World Europa was excellent. It completely wiped away any concerns I initially had about sailing with MSC. That being said, I had a few complaints, some minor and some major, about my MSC experience, including the lack of free water and stingy internet rules. Let's jump in as I discuss the 12 things I loved and hated about my first MSC cruise. I loved the ship design and ocean views. MSC World Europa was the most beautiful ship I've sailed on thus far. Not only was the ship's design perfectly elegant, but it offered more ocean views than I've come to expect on big ships. The World Galleria, the ship's indoor thoroughfare, was nothing short of gorgeous. 3 decks high, the Galleria was dazzling with lights, sculptures, and an LED ceiling that portrayed moving artwork. Outside was the World Promenade, an open-air walkway with a restaurant, cafe, retail stores, bar, and ice cream shop. At the end of the promenade was the lanai, an outdoor hangout space with unbeatable views of the ship's aft. I enjoyed how many bars and lounges around the ship were completely closed off with doors, as this made each venue feel more separate and intimate. Some bars even had an outdoor seating area that was almost never crowded, and these were the best places to enjoy a sunset during sail away. Something I hated on my MSC World Europa cruise was printing out my embarkation ticket. When preparing for my first MSC cruise, I was surprised to find out that check-in documents must be printed out for embarkation day. Most people my age don't even own a printer, so having to print the documents caused unnecessary stress before the cruise. I didn't want the tickets to get crumpled during travel, so I waited until I got to Italy to print them out. Fortunately, my hotel reception in Rome was able to print my tickets, so while it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be, it did seem like an antiquated practice. Something I loved on my MSC cruise was the Speakeasy Bar. I've yet to have had a cooler, more unique experience on a cruise ship than MSC World Europa's Speakeasy Bar. In fact, I didn't even know this bar existed when I boarded the ship. 3 days into our cruise, after befriending a bartender at the ship's Elixir bar, he handed me a small ticket with a QR code and explained it would bring us to the ship's Speakeasy Bar. At 7 p.m. the following day, we met at the ship's telephone booth in the World Galleria, where we entered a crew-only hallway behind the booth. After navigating a maze of hallways and staircases, all in crew areas, we arrived at the bar, the 1920s-era speakeasy only accessible by invite. What followed in the next 4 hours were lively performances by 2 bands, plenty of dancing, innovative drinks, and even a round of complimentary shots. The atmosphere brought us straight to the 1920s with old-fashioned decor and jazz tunes, and it was by far my favorite evening on board. However, another thing I hated on MSC World Europa, and perhaps the most annoying aspect of my cruise, was the lack of free water. If there's one thing I absolutely hated about my MSC World Europa cruise, it was the lack of free water. I'm fairly certain I spent half the cruise dehydrated. In North America, I'm used to constantly drinking water throughout the day and having it available at any restaurant or bar. Whenever I visit Southern Europe, though, this is almost never the case. Every time I visit Italy, I brace myself to constantly spend several euros for a bottle of water whenever I dine at a restaurant, even though the tap water is potable. Unfortunately, paying for water seems to be the case on MSC's European cruises as well. Note that if your cruise departs from North America, this is not likely to be the case. Almost immediately after boarding MSC World Europa, I realized that unlike other cruise lines, free water was hard to come by. The only place to find water machines were in the buffet. Most bars, restaurants, and casual grab-and-go venues had no free water available. Instead, you would have to pay for a bottle of water or constantly make trips to the buffet whenever feeling parched. This felt like a complete waste of plastic, which seems contradictory to the cruise line's goals on environmental conservation. And while the Coca-Cola Freestyle machines could dispense free water, they were only accessible to those with drink packages. Even the pizza and burgers venue, which offered complimentary pizza, burgers, chicken nuggets, fries, and other salty snacks, had no complimentary water available. I was honestly flabbergasted. I lost track of the amount of times I went to the crowded buffet for a glass of water. We even began to collect our empty water bottles from the dining room at dinner, head to the buffet's water station, and keep a stash of refill bottles in our room. When I cruise with MSC again, I will certainly buy a drink package so I don't have to deal with this issue. Something I loved about my MSC cruise was pasta and pizza. My first night on board, I was surprised to see spaghetti alla Nerano, which is pasta with sauteed zucchini, on the main dining room menu. Later on in the sailing, I enjoyed a plate of pasta alla norma, my favorite Sicilian dish with tomato sauce, sauteed eggplant, salted ricotta, and fusilli noodles. Both of these dishes were delightful, and the quality was significantly better than the complimentary Italian food I've had on other cruise lines. The best food, though, was the pizza. I found the pizza on MSC to be nothing short of delicious, whether a classic marinara slice or even the breakfast pizza. I ate more pizza in 1 week than I have in months, and I have no regrets. Even though I loved most of the food on my MSC cruise, what I hated was the crowded buffet. Although I have no complaints with the food in MSC's buffet, which was a surprise after hearing so many negative reviews, I didn't enjoy the buffet's crowds. There are 2 main buffets on MSC World Europa, but they were almost always crowded at peak hours. While buffets on cruise ships are often crowded, I experienced far more crowds in MSC's buffet than I have on other ships. The crowds made me less likely to eat at the buffet compared to other dining venues, and I was grateful there were several other complimentary venues to choose from on MSC World Europa. On other MSC ships, there are only 2 complimentary options, the buffet and main dining room, and this seems like a nightmare from a crowd perspective. Unfortunately, even though I would rather have avoided the buffet, it was one of the only places to find free water, so I found myself there more often than I would have liked. Something I loved, however, were the lower drink prices and specialty dining cover charges. As a whole, I found alcoholic drink prices on MSC to be relatively affordable when compared to other cruise lines. I did not purchase a drink package for my sailing, so I initially figured I would only be able to enjoy a few drinks throughout the week. Most cruise lines charge around $14 for a single cocktail, which can quickly add up after a few days. As soon as I got on board, though, I discovered that the cost of drinks on an MSC cruise is much cheaper than other cruise lines. Most cocktails were only €9 each, with a few specialty cocktails priced between €12 and €15. With most drinks under $10, I didn't feel like I was breaking the budget by ordering a few cocktails each evening, and I ended up enjoying more cocktails than I usually do on a cruise. My go-to spot on board was Hola Tacos and Cantina, where there seemed to always be a buy one, get one free deal on margaritas. At €9 for 2, each margarita was less than $5, an absolute steal on a cruise ship drink. In addition to lower prices on drinks were lower cover charges at specialty restaurants. I'm used to paying between $50 to $60 for dinner at specialty restaurants on a cruise ship. Upon boarding MSC World Europa, I was shocked to find relatively low prices on specialty dining. I booked teppanyaki for only €30 and all-you-can-eat Mexican food for just €18. Having lower prices meant I was able to experience more food and drink around the ship, and I think this greatly enhanced my time on board. Another thing I hated on my MSC cruise was having internet on only one device. I always book an internet package when I cruise, and I always book the one-device internet package. On most cruise lines, a one-device internet package allows you to use the internet on multiple devices as long as you are only logged on to one device at any given time. This means you can use the internet on your phone and laptop, for example, but you must log out of the internet on one device before switching to another. One thing I disliked about MSC was that the one device internet package actually meant one device. Once you logged onto the internet on one device, whether your phone or computer, you could not switch between devices for the rest of the sailing. While technically this is what a one device internet package should mean, it felt restricted compared to the more relaxed rules on other cruise lines. However, something I loved on MSC was the friendly service. One of the complaints I heard over and over again when researching my MSC cruise was that the service on board would be subpar. This was absolutely not the case at all during my sailing, and I ended the cruise having made friends with several crew members. I did not experience any unfriendly moments with crew members on MSC. Whenever I had a question, the crew was more than happy to answer. One area where I did see a difference was in the main dining room, as there was less conversation with the waiters compared to on an American cruise line. This is simply a difference in European versus American service, and I didn't mind omitting the small talk. Something I hated on my MSC cruise were the weird rules on discounts. One thing that irked me during my cruise was the lack of flexibility with pre-cruise purchases. My cruise was the first part of a 2-week vacation around Europe, so I purchased the 20-piece laundry package ahead of time for $50 USD. While not cheap, it was my only option for getting laundry done before the second part of my vacation, so I bit the bullet and booked it online before the cruise. On other cruise lines, I would expect prices online to be cheaper than what I would find on the ship. So when I got on board and saw a laundry special paper in my stateroom, I was shocked to see a 40-piece laundry package being offered for the same price as the 20-piece package I booked online. Needless to say, I felt as if I got a bad deal, and when I asked about changing it to 40 pieces at guest services, I was told it wasn't an option in their computer system. Ultimately, I still got my laundry done, but I had to pick and choose between pieces, and I wasn't able to wash all of my clothes. Something I loved on MSC World Europa, though, was the entertainment. Before my first MSC cruise, I heard that the cruise line's entertainment was not great, but I was completely blown away by the entertainment on board. My favorite show I saw was based on the story of Amelia Earhart, and it combined stunts and acrobatics that literally left me on the edge of my seat. From an e-bike stunt wheel to roller skating and aerialists, it was one of the most incredible shows I've seen at sea. Outside of the headliner show, I watched a song and dance production, live music at the pub, and even a crew member talent show, all of which were of fantastic quality. I came into my MSC World Europa cruise with low expectations on entertainment, so I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed the ship's entertainment offerings. The last thing I loved on my MSC cruise were the destination elevators. Using a destination elevator is different from using a normal elevator, although the process is simple. Once in the elevator lobby, you press the deck number you intend to go to on a screen next to the elevator. The screen will assign you to an elevator number, which tells you which elevator will bring you to your destination. This means elevators can work more efficiently. If 10 guests want to go to deck 18, they can all go in one elevator instead of having 6 elevators stop at the same floor. Despite being on a cruise ship with over 6,000 guests, I hardly ever had to wait for an elevator, and the system was incredibly efficient. Overall, my time on MSC World Europa led to a great vacation experience, and even though there were a few things I didn't love, I wouldn't hesitate to sail with MSC again. If my experience on my first MSC cruise taught me anything, it's to never put too much faith in online reviews. People love to complain, and if I would have taken the myths of bad service and entertainment as reality, I never would have booked the cruise and made the memories I did on my recent sailing. While no cruise ship or cruise line is perfect, MSC World Europa is definitely a top-notch vessel worth considering. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified when we post a new video. Until next time, happy cruising!